In het zuiden van de Gazastrook is het Israëlische offensief verder uitgebreid. De oorlog tussen Israël en Hamas duurt al bijna 70 dagen en lijkt nog niet op zijn einde. Het land krijgt steeds meer kritiek op de vele burgerslachtoffers. Ook vrijgelaten gijzelaars zijn kritisch op de regering van Netanyahu. Bij ons te gast de Israëlische ambassadeur in Nederland, Modi Ephraim. Welkom bij Uitgelicht. Goedenavond. Israël voert het offensief in de Gazastrook verder op door de stad Khan Younis te bombarderen. Door de vele burgerslachtoffers stijgt de kritiek op het land. Maar door de oorlog neemt het antisemitisme in Nederland ook extreme vormen aan. Te gast is Modi Ephraim. Hij is ambassadeur van Israël in Nederland. Mr. Ephraim, welcome in our program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, how is it to be an ambassador in times of war?
Well, these are tough times for us, dark times, and we appreciate the friendship of the Dutch people. We appreciate the friendship of the Christian people here in the Netherlands. And of course, we are now in the middle of Hanukkah, which is the celebration of light, and we need this light in this darkness that we face since October 7th.
Yeah, how do you experience that friendship, you named it?
Well, in the last 2 months, basically since October 7th, I have to tell you that I've been all over the Netherlands, and really it was a marvelous event of solidarity. And I can tell you in Veenendaal, for example, 1,000 people supporting and calling to release the hostages. I've been also to Drachten with the outside of the church with 240 chairs with the pictures of the hostages calling to release them.
Yeah.
In Rotterdam, in Amsterdam, in The Hague,
all over the country.
All over the country.
Yeah.
A great support.
Yeah.
And beside the support, of course, we have to face these protests against what they call pro-Palestinian protests, but basically it is said to be here in the Netherlands and to face this kind of protests that basically support terror, support the Hamas. And we do think, especially here in the Netherlands, well, the Hamas is including in the list of the terrorist organization. We cannot, of course, we should not allow any demonstration that praise the Hamas and praise terror.
Okay. You named October 7, a dark day in the history of your country. We're nearing the 70-day mark. Has the halfway point passed of this war?
Well, I do hope that very soon we will reach the goal of this war. And we have to remember, this is a war that basically was forced on Israel since October 7, this massacre, this brutal and barbaric attack by Hamas.
Yeah.
So the two primary goals are, of course, first of all, to eliminate the infrastructure, the military infrastructure of Hamas.
All of it?
Of Hamas, of the military, in order not to face again and again this kind of brutal attacks against Israeli civilians.
Okay.
We have to remember there are like over 200,000 Israelis that do not live in their homes now because of this brutal attack.
Yeah.
We have to secure their future. We have to convince them to come back to a safe place, to rebuild their houses, the villages. And of course, we should first of all try to, of course, gain this goal.
Okay, that's one goal, yeah?
That's right. And the second one, of course, as you mentioned, and it was also here also in this place, in this studio, there was a representative of the families to release all hostages, Israeli hostages that were taken to Gaza, that live in very poor conditions there. Till now, half of them did not return home yet.
Now, was there an exchange of hostages during a ceasefire, and now the war started again? Is it not better to have a ceasefire that you can trade with the other party?
I think when we mention ceasefire, we have to understand what does it mean, ceasefire with a terror organization. A ceasefire, if you just remember, and we all recall the ISIS, Hamas is like ISIS. And with ISIS, you are not negotiating for ceasefire, because what it means is if you have ceasefire, so in a year, in 10 years, they can attack again, of course, staying there. And basically, we would like also to free Gaza from the Hamas, to have normal neighbors that will live their lives and we will support it. But ceasefire won't lead us to any other solution.
Okay. The freed hostages were quite critical to your Prime Minister Netanyahu during a private meeting. Why did they do that?
Well, of course, as we know, and each family that think about their beloved ones are there with no food. As we heard, the hostages that came back, they were sharing a pita bread for 6 people. They did not allow them to go to a toilet. They were in a very bad conditions, and they couldn't know if the day after they may kill them.
Yeah.
So, of course, for each family, that's the main campaign they do, and we appreciate and we think it's extremely important.
Yeah.
And of course, to share complaints and to have this dialogue with the head of state, with the prime minister, with the cabinet, it's extremely important.
But did your government place them in the first place to free the hostages and then fulfill the war?
Right. Well, I think if you will go back to the Netherlands, and we see during these weeks, we had 3 visits of families of hostages.
Yeah.
And we all remember here the Engel family. Engel family that was here, and I remember also I joined the Prime Minister Rutte in his visit to Israel, and he met all of them. He heard the stories, including the stories of the Holocaust time where they were hiding here in the Netherlands. And at the end of this process that unfortunately the Hamas violated and fired rockets to Israel, he was released. There are many others that did not release. One of them, also they were here in the Netherlands, Noor Gamani, that was taken brutally from the party, and unfortunately she's still there.
Yeah, you mean Ophir Engel? He's now behind you on a picture. He is a Dutchman. He became a Dutchman during the...
He is a Dutchman. He has a great family that supported him. And we are really, I think it's an opportunity also to be very grateful to the Dutch people for their support, for your support. And of course, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the Dutch government. I think it was a clear position that Prime Minister Rutte and his cabinet took in order to basically recognize Israel's right to defend itself. Till now, we just heard the press conference that took place in Berlin between the German Chancellor and Prime Minister Rutte. Both of them recognized the Israel rights of self-defense. So ceasefire is not an option.
Yeah, and in the meantime, a Hamas spokesperson says Israel won't get remaining captives alive without accepting the conditions of Hamas. How do you cope with that?
Well, dealing with a terror organization like Hamas, like ISIS, the cruelty, they, as we know and we see also in Gaza, they basically use their own people as human shields. They don't care about the well-being of their people. They fire rockets and missiles from mosques, from hospitals, from schools, and basically you cannot negotiate with them. We do appreciate a lot the work that was done by the US, by the Egyptian president, and also the Qataris, and of course the efforts here was done by Prime Minister Rutte, traveling in the area, meeting and speaking with the Arab leaders.
Yeah, but if they say this, then you don't get your people back alive.
No, I can tell you from our experience. Since we started with the ground operation, there was more and more pressure on the Hamas to release the hostages because they were looking for what you can call a ceasefire or a humanitarian process, and we know that if we continue, and now we are in the second phase, basically in the southern part, in the middle of Khan Younis, which was the center of Hania and many other were terrorists. It's not easy. We pay high price for this war, and as I mentioned before, this is a war that was forced on Israel by Hamas, and of course we would like to achieve the goal and save lives of Israeli and save lives of innocent Gazan civilians.
Yeah, you pay a high price, you say. The invasion of the Gaza Strip, there are many, as we see on television and read in the newspapers, there are many civilian casualties. This seems like a high cost to destroy a relative small group in the Gaza Strip.
Well, as we see it, the Hamas today is like an army. We saw these horrible images from October 7th, when thousands of them came with RPG, with all ammunition. And again, you are not fighting against an army. You're fighting against terrorists that do not care of their neighborhoods, of their neighbors, of their civilians. If you go back to the history, Israel has no interest to be there in Gaza.
Yeah.
We left in 2005 all the territory of Gaza in order not to come back, and basically handed over Gaza to the Palestinian Authority.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in less than 2 years, they lost the control. So we do our best in order to avoid casualties. We notify them. We do humanitarian passages in order them to move to safe areas. And there are safe zones that we, of course, taking care of them and doing the best we can in order, first, as I mentioned, the two main goals of this military operation, and secondly, letting more and more humanitarian support to come into Gaza. Just to let you know, 4,000 trucks came into the Rafah crossing in order to have them food and water and medication and solar, because we do think that it's important. That they will, the innocent civilians will be able to have life, and hopefully it will happen with a new reality after the destruction of the Hamas.
So you say here that the IDF does everything to avoid casualties, civilian casualties?
Absolutely, everything we can, and of course, as I mentioned as well, we pay prices of our soldiers, of our sons, because of this, because we respect the humanitarian law, and we do our utmost in order to fight terrorism in an urban area when they use their own citizens as human shields. That's the problem of fighting this terrorist organization.
Still now, after 70 days of war, they do this method.
Absolutely, absolutely. They continue, and it's a big area, and it's 2.2 million citizens, and we do all our best in order to rescue, in order to provide them these safe zones. But unfortunately, we have to finish this war with a very strict and precise results. No more threats, no more future threats to the Israeli civilians, and as I mentioned as well, also to free Gaza from these terrorists.
So never again an October 7, you said.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can tell you, a few weeks ago we were here at the Portuguese synagogue, the commemoration of the Kristallnacht, and we say never again is now, because we are now fighting for our existence, and it's important. The US understand it, and many European countries understand it, and they understand also that the terror now is in our region, but easily can reach Europe and other places as it was before.
But can you reach that goal? Because Hamas people you can kill, but it's between the ears, it's in their heads.
Absolutely. When you speak about ideology, it's a problem. I think the role of us, the free world, which include, of course, the European countries, the US and other countries as well, is to convince the Palestinians that the best way is to go back to negotiations, to have a strong leadership of the Palestinian Authority, and of course, to offer to their people a better future. That's what we are looking for. And if you just recall the past, we open industrial zones to provide them jobs, to have them the possibility to maintain their families and have normal life like we all want to be like.
And to live in peace next to each other.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. In the meantime, foreign countries are criticizing Israel for the many casualties in the Gaza Strip. Do you understand that criticism from European countries, from other countries all over the world?
Well, I have to tell you, we have some experience in the international relation with the countries. And unfortunately, there are some organizations that show during the existence of Israel their way of a biased way of looking at the conflict, a biased way of voting in issues that concern Israel. Just for example, the Human Rights Council in Geneva. Almost 80% of the resolutions are in the context of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and we know what happens in many other parts of the world. So we learned the lesson of the history. As you mentioned before, never again is now. So never again is now, which means that now Israel has its own strong army, and our own state of Israel a sovereign state, that we can take the decision for our existence, for the future of our citizens.
Yeah, but don't you feel that Israel is politically standing alone, that maybe your only friend in the world is the United States?
Not at all. I have to tell you, I had a few weeks ago a meeting with all the European ambassadors here, and the solidarity, the support for Israel for this right war against terror was clear all over the 27 participants there. And I think that's the reality in Europe. That's the reality in other parts of the world. Not always publicly leaders speak about it. Not always publicly Arab leaders supporting. But if we go back to the problem, so Hamas is backed by financially and military by Iran. Also Hezbollah, also the Houthis in Yemen. And this Iran basically poses a threat for the Gulf countries, for other countries as well, and of course for the free world. So we fight basically the war of the free world, and we need the support, and we appreciate that support.
Yeah, okay, but you also watched, as I did, the United Nations resolution. 13 of the 15 countries were for a standstill. One country didn't vote, United Kingdom, and only the US was against it.
Yeah,
what does it say?
United Kingdom abstain. And again, I'm coming back to the issue of ceasefire. What does it mean in calling ceasefire? Basically not mentioning anything about who started with this war and the massacre, the attack. I have to tell you, I've been to Israel with the foreign minister, the Dutch foreign minister. We visited one of the villages there, Kfar Aza. And all of us, we were shocked to see the devastation there, And we entered one small apartment of a young couple in his 20s that basically both of them were burned alive.
Yeah.
And it took weeks in order to identify them. And this is just one example. And to see these peaceful and beautiful villages of the south, they're in the current situation. When you visit there, and there were many leaders from all over the world that came and visited and had this impression that for sure, there is no doubt that we have to eliminate this terror organization, as we did with ISIS. Yeah. And I think it's also a good call for international coalition against Hamas, as it was done against ISIS. There is a conference in these coming days in Paris, and I hope that will be the way that the international community will act in different form.
Yeah, you say you feel support from European leaders. For example, our leader, Prime Minister Mark Rutte, he visited Israel also. But his tone of voice has changed in the last weeks. Did you notice?
Well, we all aware to the humanitarian aspect. And of course, you can see also that the Israeli government took tough decisions, because we know providing solar, which basically will be taken by these terrorists and won't serve the hospital and won't serve the civil society there, it can be dangerous for the goal of this war. Because, as you say, it's not easy. Because during these years they have like a full army there, and of course providing materials that can be useful for their military, for their terror initiatives. It can be very negative. Okay. So we are aware. We have discussions. There were many calls among the foreign ministers, among the prime ministers, and we are in an ongoing dialogue. And I think we find a solution. But what is important, as I mentioned also today, when they declared both the German Chancellor and the Prime Minister Rutte, that Israel has the right to defend itself, which means no ceasefire. Okay, no ceasefire, and we do hope that this war will be over soon. We are looking for a better future, a future of peace. You know, I've worked in the past with President Shimon Peres, and he was very optimistic about reaching an agreement with the Palestinians. So in order for the Palestinians to understand, I think also the Netherlands and other countries should convince them that the way for dialogue, the way to have moderates that can create a real negotiations for the best of the peoples of the region, that's the only solution.
You said that before. So you trust the Netherlands, I can hear. Although your government has issued a travel warning for 80 countries for Jewish people, for Israeli people, to visit that country, also the Netherlands.
Well, it brings me back to Iran. It brings me back to Iran, and you know, I have to tell you, I served years ago in Buenos Aires. My predecessor was murdered there in the terrorist attacks against the Israeli embassy.
Okay.
And 2 years later, in '94, there was a terrorist attack against the Jewish Community Center, the AMIA, where 85 people were murdered there. And it was, according to the Argentinian authorities, the decision was taken in Tehran. Yeah. So that's the case now. Iran is doing all efforts in order to kill Israelis, to kill Jewish people.
So you protect your people to travel abroad?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. At this sensitive time, we do protect our people, and we say, well, first of all, you have to be careful because this, you know, a state that backed and support terrorism, that's the main problem, and I'm concerned, and my concern as ambassador of Israel to the Netherlands. It's also the rise here of the anti-Semitism since October. Since October, we saw, well, the numbers are like 800%. And of course, I see myself also as ambassador of for the Jewish community, ambassador of Israel here to the Netherlands. And, you know, we cannot think about it, after the Holocaust, 80 years later, that we have to face these problems, that they're afraid, they fear to send the kids to Jewish schools. Or they have to take the mezuzahs out of the doors. I think it cannot happen. And of course, working together with the government, with the parliament, with the civic society is extremely important to avoid it. Jewish people here.
Are your people who live here afraid? You notice?
They have their concern, of course. Of course, they have their concern.
And for example, do they celebrate Hanukkah?
We do try to celebrate everywhere.
Yeah.
We do try, and I think speaking about Hanukkah, the mixed feelings. I was yesterday in The Hague, in the City Hall, with the mayor, with parliament members, with all the Jewish community of The Hague. We celebrated Hanukkah to show that we are strong and to show also that the support we get from the authorities. And of course, continuing and wishing and hoping for this miracle of Hanukkah. You know, that a little light will bring us a bigger light and, of course, will defeat the darkness. The
Feast of Light, yeah. Do you think the Dutch government is handling the rising anti-Semitism on a right way?
Well, I know that I can, of course, assure you that we work together with the government. And they are aware to the problem. I think by appointing a national coordinating to combat anti-Semitism, it's important. Work with the Minister of Justice and parliamentarians. I think there is a commitment here to fight to combat anti-Semitism. But still, with this pro-Palestinian protests, I think we should take some other measures as well in order to. The most important, I think, that the government and the Dutch should provide the Jewish community, like any other community, the possibility to live and to practice their religions, to go to synagogues, and of course to feel safe in their homes. That's what happened, unfortunately, on October 7th, that our citizens did not feel safe in their homes, and that's the reason we are now in this battle, in this war against terror.
To close up, Mr. Ephraim, your term in February next year is halfway point. You're 2 years in the Netherlands. Are you here for another 2 years?
Well, you know, we can never, as a diplomat,
as God wills,
I understood we can never promise, and we can, but I can assure you that these 2 years were extremely positive experience for me. Meeting so many friends in the Netherlands, doing so much for the cooperation among the countries. You know, at the beginning of this year, we started with the 75th anniversary of Israel, and we are coming to the year of 2024 when we will mark 75 to the bilateral relation with the Netherlands. We have to end the year with a sense of optimism, and I think we do hope that the war will be over and we'll be able to go back to normal life with no terror and with great friendship.
Okay, thank you for your time, Mr. Modi Ephraim, the ambassador of Israel in the Netherlands. Dit was Uitgelicht voor vandaag. Dank voor het kijken. Aanstaande vrijdag beleven we welzijn. Dan zijn we weer.